This sketchbook was a beast. Hi, Shanna Rowe Jackson here from Caution Artists at Play, and today I have a sketchbook tour video for you. Folks, this one has been a long time coming. I started this almost 3 years ago. I don't know what it is, but my sketchbooks tend to take me almost 3 years. Even the last one I did, which was much, much smaller than this one. You saw me design this cover, you saw me design the cover page, and there are quite a few pieces in here that you've seen over the years where I was doing product reviews and just playing around in the sketchbook. But there is also a lot that you haven't seen yet, and I'm excited to show that to you today. So she's a big one. She's a 9x12. She's a little bit chunky now. Let's take a look inside. Something I want to show you before we get into my main sketchbook is my messy sketchbook. I often have more than one sketchbook going at a time, and I have some regular sketchbooks that are literally just for actual sketching. Very messy. It's me planning out future paintings, doing thumbnail sketches, and I think it's important to show you this before I show you the other one, because the other one is a pricier sketchbook. So it's got more finished feeling pieces in it. And I didn't want anybody to feel like they have to have an aesthetic sketchbook. I also have some ugly sketchbooks that have complete and utter crap in them. Sometimes they have some pretty good stuff, like this is a thumbnail sketch I did for a future painting. But other times it's just random crap that nobody else will know what it's about if they were to look at it. The other sketchbook I'm about to show you is more finished, but your sketchbook doesn't have to be as finished as the sketchbook I was showing you. And this is one of my messy ones where I go to work out my ideas. All right, so let's move on to the big guy. Okay, so this is the Watercolor Art Journal by Jane Davenport. It is a 9x12. She's humongous. It came with a white canvas cover that is fully customizable. You saw me do that on the channel. And I have over it one of their like plastic covers. She's a little bit messy now. She's got paint all over her, which is probably a good thing that I have the cover then, because it protected the cover. Now, this is a fun canvas texture. However, I do notice things static cling to it. So even underneath the cover, you can see like little hairs and stuff. I have animals. It happens. So that's something to keep in mind. This was kind of pricey when I bought it years ago, but it's even more expensive now, and it's only available on her website now. It used to be available on Amazon, but I haven't been able to find it for a while. I will link it in the description below, but I gotta warn you, it is a hefty price. And I think it's got like 80-something pages in it. Okay, so starting off with the cover page, you did see me design this on the channel. I designed my cover 1/20 of 22, but then I didn't start this sketchbook and do this page until 11/3 of 22. So you're gonna see a lot of time jumps in this journal because I got a lot going on. So I can't always work in my sketchbook consistently. And as you can tell, it's kind of a large sketchbook, so it took some time to complete. But I had a lot of fun with this cover page. I did a kind of modeled texture in the background, almost like a sky, and then some succulents and crystals. Super fun. This was done with watercolors and Pitt pens. Okay, so for my first spread, I think I was recovering from the flu when I made these, but at this point it is December. I was feeling in the Christmas mood. You're gonna see this fun wreath motif throughout this sketchbook. I basically traced a plate and used that as my format, and then I just added in all kinds of fun and whimsical elements for both of these holidays. So I have over here a Christmas one and I have a New Year's one. I do have these on my print site available as prints. I will link my print site in the description below because there's quite a few of these that I have scanned in and added as prints and greeting cards. And these were also done with some of the Pitt pens, the Albrecht Dürer markers, and some colored pencil and gel pen. And then this was done with Pitt pens, gel pen, and the Imuki markers, which are oil-based markers. I don't know if you can tell, but you'll see some shimmer there. I used those to create the metallic outline. This one is one of my favorites. This is of hostas in my yard, and I love this all over motif. I did this to play around with some gouache. This was done with the Caran d'Ache Studio gouache pans and some bleed proof white by Dr. P.H. Martins. Basically just wanted to paint some leaves. Occasionally it is fun to just work monochromatically and just use one color and add some black and white. And that's basically what this is, although I did add some like yellow ochres and stuff as well. You may remember this from a video on the channel where I used some primary colors in Inktense pencils. So I basically just grabbed 3 colors that could work as primaries: fuchsia, sun yellow, iris blue. And then I also brought in some ink black and created this fun, colorful mushroom drawing. It is such a great way to play around with a limited color palette, get used to the primaries, get used to mixing, and to play around with Inktense. I also had a fun time creating this rough edge here, nice like watercolor effect. You'll see some rough edges in future paintings as well. It was something that I like to play around with in this sketchbook. I will link this video and any other related videos in the description below. This was also from a video, this time with the Holbein Artist Gouache. I had put together a custom travel palette, and then I used the colors to play around and create this sunflower painting. Nobody does gouache like Holbein. I mean, let's just face it. And so this was a really good time. I also brought in some colored pencils to see how well they did over the gouache to create some texture. And one of my favorite parts was using metallics in the center of that flower and on some of the petals. Super, super fun. This was from another review video where I used the Koh-i-Noor Mondeluz 12 gray line. Now, this was a set of the Mondeluz watercolor pencils by Koh-i-Noor, and it is just a bunch of gray toned pencils. I had a ton of fun with this, and this was one of the pieces that really made me fall back in love with using the Mondeluz pencils. I had used them as a teenager, but I hadn't really used them a lot as an adult. And now you've probably seen a lot of my videos recently where I am using watercolor pencils, and I think that these are a great budget-friendly pencil. For this, I had originally swatched over here and then did this piece, but I lost some footage, so I ended up having to do a second piece for that video. But yeah, that video is there if you want to learn more about these pencils. I had a ton of fun with it though, and I really love the way this drawing came out. It's just some water drops on some grass. I think it's beautiful. This one, I just wanted to play around with my Holbein watercolors, and I had a lot of fun with it. It's fun, it's summery, it's colorful. It's not my favorite spread. I wanted to do a pattern, but I feel like I'm not a huge fan of all the white space. I feel like this would have looked better on in a smaller sketchbook with it more condensed and closer together. And I just did it from imagination, so it's not like the best, it's not the most accurate, but it was still pretty fun. This was from another review video where I used the Koh-i-Noor Tritone pencils. Those are basically 3 colors in one pencil. I had a set that I bought probably around the same time as I bought the gray tones. I wanted to play around with them, see the different effects I could get. The swatches are super fun. And then I just came over here and played around with various landscape motifs. I think that they worked pretty well for that, and I like to use them for special effects in other pieces, and you'll see that later on in this book as well. I think the tree is my favorite because I actually used a reference for that. This one was just made up, but it was a good time. Okay, so this is just a plein air exercise that I did with markers out in my backyard. This was done in April of 23, and keep that in mind because the next spread was done like a month later, and you'll see the difference. We still didn't have a lot of leaves on the trees yet. Everything was still kind of brown and more of like a sap green color. And so I just picked different elements in my yard and drew them as I saw them. It's not my best work, obviously, but I think I captured the feeling of how it felt that day out in the yard. I have my cedar tree, chickens doing chicken things, trees waiting for leaves, my luscious patches of moss. We have a lot of moss out in my backyard and I love it. Oak leaves, a rock wall, and a fallen tree. It was a great way to spend some time outside and get creative. This one was done again a month after the one I just showed you, and look at the difference. Everything was green by then, and the flowers were blooming. I love lilacs. We have a ton of lilacs in our yard, and I just wanted to do a sketchbook spread that celebrated those beautiful flowers. So for this piece, I did this one day. I sat on my back porch and I was able to kind of get a close-up view of the flowers that are next to my porch out back. And then the next day I went out on the front lawn and painted one of our big trees and its offshoots. And this is one of my favorite spreads. I just wanted to be loose and playful with the flowers and play around with my Holbein watercolors. And I think it came out beautifully. I can almost smell them looking at this. One of my favorite times of year, and they don't stick around long enough. This one was just a lot of fun with some ballpoint pens. I didn't know what I wanted to draw that day, so I looked around for some random objects in my house, and I came across my stash of nail polish, and they're so fun and colorful, and all the different shapes of bottles. I was like, oh, this is perfect. So I grabbed my colorful ballpoint pens, and I just set them up in various ways with each other and drew them out. And it was a blast. I don't paint my nails as often as I used to, because honestly, I don't have the time for the upkeep. They always get chipped. They always get ruined when I paint, because I'll get like acrylic paint on them and it gets ruined, and I just don't have the energy to keep up with it. But I do love the way nail polish looks, both on other people and on myself, honestly, and in the bottle. It was just fun and playful. Okay, so this one was also inspired by my yard. Those who know. We have been fist fighting with our lawnmower for years. We have an old John Deere riding lawnmower. We can't really afford to go out and just buy a brand new one, but our yard is large enough that we have to have a riding mower. So we've been limping this one along, and sometimes she just doesn't want to work. And this sketchbook spread is inspired by one of those times. We had a pretty tall lawn. This was in June of 23, and these are the various plants that you could find growing there. We had some buttercups and some clover and some daisies and violets and various kinds of grasses, and I did this one in gouache. It was silly, and it's kind of a testament to the struggle that my husband and I have gone through, and you're gonna see more like it in the future, because we're having a fight with our lawnmower right now, actually. So, but you know what? The birds and the butterflies love it, and so I'm kind of here for it. This was when I tried the Light Wish brush markers. These are acrylic brush markers. You can see here the swatches. These were double-ended markers. This one, for some reason, the markers were not accurate to the color in them. They had switched ends. I don't know. They had put ink in the wrong ends. But that was really the only glitch I had with them. They worked pretty well, and I liked what I came up with. It kind of gives me Rugrats vibes. I'm a Nickelodeon girl, and I loved Rugrats. It was my favorite cartoon. And I think the color scheme I used, along with the shaky line work, kind of harkens back to OG Rugrats, and I love it. This sketchbook spread is from when I tried out the Molotow black liner pens, and this has to be one of my top favorite spreads of the whole book. This one, I used my reference photos from my yard as inspiration, and I love like the technical aspect of it. I think that it showcases my drawing skills really well, and I love that it's just black and white. I just think it's beautiful. I left this page blank because I didn't want to risk ruining this sketchbook spread, and I was working with alcohol markers next, and alcohol markers bleed through. So I only worked on this page this time because I knew I could work with like acrylic or gouache on the next page and hide the bleed through. This was also from a video. This is when I tried the Ohuhu pastel markers, and I had a ton of fun with it. It's just a simple illustration. It's not my best work, but I think I got to know the markers really well and the colors really well. And I really love this teacup that I used to have. It's gone now. I don't know what happened to it, but it says, "Cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today." And so I put wisdom from a teacup, and now I want cookies. This one is from a reference photo that I took a long time ago from the passenger seat of my car, and I will probably do this larger on a canvas where I can sell it later on. But sometimes I like to jump into the sketchbook to work out ideas for future paintings. And that's what this painting was for me. This is with acrylic gouache by Holbein. And I also did like an underpainting with some of their colored gesso. It's a bright, bright red gesso. And you can see that shining through in the road and in the barn and in some of the trees and sky. I love it a lot. And I am looking forward to doing this piece again. I put a lot more oranges in the sky than what the reference photo shows. So the next time I do it, I might change up the sky again. But this was just a fun way to play around with my acrylic gouache and to create some mood and a lovely sunset landscape. Yellow is a color that exudes self-confidence, and occasionally I come to the sketchbook to work out certain feelings I'm having or to kind of give myself a pep talk, and that's what this piece was. I did it all in yellow. This is gouache, and then I think I came in with some pens as well. And this was just done from imagination, as you can probably tell by this tree. It was just something to play around with. Occasionally I'll put little messages to myself in my sketchbook, and that's what I did here. I said, it's time to believe in yourself. And the yellow is just like this beautiful sunshiny feeling when I look at it. And so I really did enjoy working on this piece, and I enjoy looking at it now. It gives me nice, happy vibes. I love pumpkins. Me and my husband grow pumpkins every year, and they are such an inspiration to me. And one time when I was out in our garden, I was thinking about how fun it would be to have a little pumpkin village. So of course I came in and worked that idea out in my sketchbook. I picture there being like little mice or something living in these houses. I love my little wheelbarrow with the acorns in it, and the fact that some of them are multi-level. I just picture fun little creatures here. And then this one was done with Neocolor 2s. I think it was Van Gogh watercolors and some Micron pens. Going along with some imaginative fall artwork, here is another wreath motif that I did. This one was done in a video as well. This was using the Art Magic deck for inspiration, and I had pulled some cards. I had been wanting to do something like this already, but the cards that I pulled ended up matching up, and I kept it to a nice, fun fall theme, pretty minimal color-wise, and just added in all kinds of fun fall elements. I used myself as inspiration for her, not so much the face, but I do have a photo of me sitting on my tree swing in a dress, and I used that as my reference. I have a little black cat here because I have a black cat. And then I also put the sign for Virgo because I'm a Virgo. But all around, one of my favorites, I think. I do have this scanned in as prints on my website. This piece was done with the Color Shift paint by Culture Hustle. This was a lot of fun to work on, but I gotta say, I'm not a fan of the execution. This is color changing paint that is heat activated. And you can kind of see it shifting there. See how it's turning blue and there's that little rainbow? I am a mood ring girl, and so when I heard that this paint existed, I had to go out and get it. And it comes with the black 2.0 paint, which is very, very, very black, dark paint. And that was fun to work with. It wasn't the best consistency for acrylic paint, so I think that's one reason why I struggled a bit with trees. Like, I chose a subject that I know really well, but these are definitely not my best trees. But I wanted something spooky and fun, and then I also did a necklace in that video as well. So my biggest issue is there's just not enough. Like, they're kind of pricey, and I know it's a small company, and I know that they're formulating a lot of different paints and stuff, so it's gotta be a lot of cost. But between this, which I didn't even cover the whole thing with the color shifting stuff, and that one little necklace, I used up all of the color shifting part of it. And so I just wish that there was more. This one I used I think it was the landscape set of core watercolors and just did some loosey-goosey Christmassy paintings. I painted the tree just in water first and dropped my colors in to get that washy effect. And then you can see I had dropped some of the red in while it was still wet. And then I did a wreath over here with the same colors. I just wanted to work with a limited color palette and do something kind of antique looking and festive. You might recognize this one from a video. This is where I reviewed the Faber-Castell Graphite Aquarelle, which is water-soluble graphite. And I did my swatches over here. You can see them dry. You can see where I had washed them out, and you can see where I had lifted it wet from the palette. So I had a full range of values here, and then I did a succulent piece over here. You know, I love me some succulents. You're going to see succulents all throughout this book. And I really did enjoy those pencils, and I'll definitely be using them a lot in the future. This one was so that I could play around with my Holbein watercolors and acrylic ink. So you may know that I am a brand ambassador for Holbein, Legion, and General Pencil Co. So a lot of times I will come into my sketchbook and play around with the materials so I can get to know them more and teach about them in workshops. And that's basically what this was. I had recently gotten some of the acrylic ink markers. They're refillable markers that you can put the acrylic ink by Holbein in. And I wanted to play around with that. So I put down some rainbowy washes of their watercolor. I threw in some rubbing alcohol for these cells and texture. And then I just came over it and did a mandala kind of motif over it with the acrylic ink. It's a nice dark purple. And I think it came out really well. It's not perfect. I wasn't out here measuring or anything like that. I just went with whatever came out and came up with this design. This one I am also playing around with the acrylic ink markers by Holbein and some of their gesso. Originally, this piece was going to be another gouache landscape, but I hated it. So I came through with this rough kind of textured gesso by Holbein. Some of the colors from the gouache had actually leached through, and I like that, so you can see some blue and pink and other colors underneath. And then I came over it with some of the bolder nibbed acrylic ink markers with some of their black acrylic ink in like a teal color and put in the different lines. And again, I just kind of worked intuitively. I wasn't looking for anything specific out of this, but I'm really happy with the design and the composition. I think some of the lines could have been a little bit more perfect, especially going over this gutter. But honestly, for a piece that took me like maybe 10 minutes after the gesso had dried, I can't complain. I think it came out pretty cool. I love this sketchbook spread. I used some of my houseplants as inspiration, and I used those acrylic markers I told you about earlier, along with some of the oil-based Imuki markers for some shimmer and shine with the metallic border and leaves. I wanted to play with color, pattern, and just get this nice flat, almost gouache-like look. That's one thing that I'm really enjoying about these acrylic markers that have been coming out, especially the brush markers. They tend to be matte and they look almost like gouache. I often use my acrylic markers with my gouache because they blend so well together. I say blend well. I don't mean like physically blending. I mean when you lay an acrylic marker over the top of gouache, you can't necessarily tell the difference between the two. And I love that. But this was a lot of playfulness and a lot of pattern and a lot of experimentation with color. This one was one that started off as a loose watercolor floral piece, and I absolutely hated it. That is a place where I need more practice. There are some people that create beautiful, loose watercolor flowers. I am not one of them. And so I had attempted to do that. And these are, I think it's my core watercolors. And then I came in with some of those tritone pencils again and played around in the negative spaces. And I still was not a fan. These are mostly flowers found in my yard other than this rose, which I think I just did from memory. Actually, I think I did all of them from memory, but it's because I'm so used to seeing them in my yard. Yeah, I was not a fan of it. And so like a month later, I came through with the black offset outlines and I like it so much better. I didn't do as much of the outlining on these two because these were my favorites to begin with, but I relied more heavily on it with the rose and the lily. And I love that offset look and I think it makes things really pop. And then I had also put another message for myself in here. It's so important to thank the earth and take the time to look at flowers. And I do love that message. So I like this a lot more now than I did when I first finished it. You may recognize this spread from when I compared the Derwent Inktense pans with the Derwent watercolor pans. I like this spread so much because these were done from references that I took when I went to Plein Air Days at the Coastal Maine Botanical Gardens in 2024. And they're just so fun. I love poppies. They were a joy to paint. I actually changed the color of these ones to darken them up so they match this a little bit better. But as you can tell, the finish isn't very different between the two different pans. We've got the Inktense on this side, we've got the watercolors on this side. They look very visually similar once they're dry. But I have to say, working with the Inktense felt more like gouache, and working with the watercolor felt a little bit more like a traditional watercolor, a little more transparent, washed out a little bit more than the Inktense. But they both dry fairly matte and similar when they're side by side. This was just a quick plein air session with my Holbein watercolors and microns. It's just a line and wash session where I drew various trees in my front yard. And the main thing was using line work for my details. And then I just came in with light washes. I didn't want it to be too crazy color-wise. I kept it pretty simple, but I really just want to spend time with my trees and honor them by drawing them. I love my trees. I can't help it. And so that's what this piece is about. Okay, this is one of my favorite spreads as well. This is my World Watercolor Month from 2024 spread. I work outside of the home, and then I'm also working on various larger pieces of artwork and tutorials and reviews. And so I don't have a lot of time to do a full finished piece each day. So I decided to break it down into little bite-sized chunks, and that's what I did here. I drew out shapes ahead of time, and then when I would look at a prompt, I would choose a shape that fit it the best and paint in that prompt. So they're kind of all over the place. Like number 1 is here, I don't even know where number 2 is right now, but you got number 3 down here, number 23 is here. Like they're all over the place. But I had a blast with it, and I feel like it was a great way for me to stick with this challenge. I do have a video where I showed these off. I didn't paint any of them on camera, but I do have a video of a tour of each of them. But my favorites are Buried, which is where I have my dog Maisie buried in blankets, The Paw, which is my cat Leo for Scratch. I really love Tidal. I just had a great time with this challenge, and I think if I do another monthly challenge like this, I will do it in this same kind of format again. This was another water-soluble graphite review. This was the Pacific Art Graphite Sticks. I do have a video about this on the channel. These are basically like giant water-soluble graphite crayons. They're amazing. They're going to last forever. And I had a fantastic time with them. I was able to get the full value range that I needed. All around, a pretty good product and fairly inexpensive. I was feeling like November had been left out quite a bit in my sketchbook, and so I decided to sit down and do a limited color palette. I used some of the cards from the Color Cubes by Sarah Renee Clark to find my color scheme, and then I just worked with some watercolors and Pitt pens, and we have a fun warm drink and some acorns and some fuzzy socks and leaves and pumpkin pie, because I love me some pumpkin pie, some gourds, and a nice scarf. I think it captures the month pretty well. I think I filmed myself making this, but I never made a video with it. I have the footage somewhere, so maybe I'll pop a little bit up for B-roll. This was just a spread with me getting to know the novice fountain pens. I didn't film this either. These were some fun, inexpensive fountain pens that I bought from Amazon. They were only like $10 for the set. So I did my swatches up here, and then I wet them down on the top to see if they were water soluble. And then I just did various landscape elements from different reference photos I had. This one might be my favorite because it's from my front yard. You've seen that apple tree in a few of them so far, and it's just a nice little deer out there eating underneath the apple tree. But overall, I really enjoy these pens, and I have taken them out plein air painting since, and they work really, really well. So I will link those and other products in the description below in case anybody is interested. Going along with my holiday wreath motif, we have here one that I did for Valentine's Day and one that I did for St. Patrick's Day. I had fun with them. I used the Prismacolor watercolor pencils for these and some polychromos, along with some sparkly pens by Ohuhu, which I don't know if we can see the shimmer and shine. You can probably see it more on this side. I think the sparkles are my favorite part. These aren't my best from that little series, but I did want to at least include these holidays because I had already included some of the others. And I already had plans for my Easter one, and that was this spread. And I used Pitt pens and the Ohuhu glitter markers again for this little wreath. I had a ton of fun with that. And then I came over and drew a bunny. Now, I was born in the late 80s, so I grew up in the 90s. I wanted this to feel ultra nostalgic. So I was thinking back to the stuffies that we had in the 90s, and they all had like these big blue eyes with the eye sparkles. And so I was like, I'm definitely going to do that because I want this to look like an illustration that I might have seen when I was growing up. And I think I captured that pretty well. Sometimes our dolls had purple eyes that were like that. I don't know. It was so strange. But this big blue sparkly eye was like a whole mood back in the 90s. All my stuffies and baby dolls had them. And I think it's super cute. So it's not the most realistic bunny because I wanted it to be fun and illustrative. And of course, I put a little chicky friend there. This was one that I had planned on doing in a sketchbook for a really long time. I took the reference photo for this years ago. It was initially on my porch, but I wanted to give it a more natural background that would also make it pop. I didn't want to have like the wood in the background because the moth would blend in with it too much. So I chose pinks and greens and I really liked it. It's kind of just a bokeh-y background that implies some sort of floral. And I think it really helps him to pop. And for this one, I used gouache and acrylic marker. So this is an example of what I was talking about earlier. The base of this was gouache, and then I came in with some acrylic markers for details, and those are matte as well, so it all goes together really well. And I also used some colored pencil for detail in parts of the wings. I do have prints available of this on my print site. This was from a fairly recent video where I tried the Holbein luminous watercolors. These are fluorescent watercolors. Oh my gosh, they are so gorgeous. The camera does not do these justice, but I started off with swatching them in these little hearts, and I thought that was really fun. So I carried the heart theme over to my spring illustration, kept it fun and playful. Again, it made me feel nostalgic for the 90s because we had these colors a lot in the 90s. Our hair ties were these colors, our shoes, jelly shoes were these colors, our leggings were these colors. Like, it just really brings me back to when I was growing up, and I love that feeling I get when I look at it. So this one is an acrylic piece, and this is really interesting because this was actually inspired by a dream that I had. I don't know where this is. This is not done from a reference. I actually had a dream that I was in this scene painting it, and then I also crawled through my painting into the scene. It was a very strange dream, a very vivid dream. Now, this is not exact. Like, when I'm thinking back on my dream now, it's not exact. I actually had drawn some thumbnail drawings when I first woke up, and I feel like the road went around more like this, and there was more red and more trees. But this was my attempt at recapturing that dream, and I think I'm going to paint it again until I get closer and closer to that dream. But I do like what I got from it. I captured some of the shadows that I remembered seeing, and there was this big pine tree. And I do like what I came up with, considering the fact that I didn't have any sort of reference, just a memory from what I had dreamt about the night before. This was one that I had also been planning to do in the sketchbook for a really long time. So these pictures are from photos that I took, but this one is from a photo that my husband took. He found this little peeper in our yard and he picked it up. We had just gotten a new succulent plant. So he had picked it up and put it on the succulent plant so that the chickens wouldn't go after him because he was a tiny little guy. And he took some photos of it, and then I had cropped the photo to this format so I could put it in the sketchbook. And then again, these ones were from random reference photos that I took in the yard. And I basically drew these guys here so that I could have a spread because this was the main event. And this was done with the Neocolor 2s, Neocolor 1s, which are essentially water-soluble and non-water-soluble crayons, and some colored pencil. And this guy is one of my favorites. Again, there are prints available of him in my print shop. This is just a quick landscape that I did out of imagination. I just wanted to play around with these colors, and I also had gotten some new acrylics that I wanted to try out. So the base of this is watercolors. Then I came over it with the black acrylics for the silhouettes and white acrylics for the stars. This was just fun and quick. I just wanted to play around. I didn't really know which way I wanted to go with it. I started with the sky first and then brought in the water and the lighthouse. It's not my favorite spread, but this one was really just about playing around and being creative, and I think I accomplished that. This one is one of my favorite spreads, and this was inspired by a gift that I had gotten my mother for her birthday. Her birthday's in May, and I had gotten her something that was Lily of the Valley themed. I have been wanting to do some sort of series of monthly flowers for a long time. I really want to do one where I do realistic colored pencil pieces of each monthly flower, but that's an undertaking. And so I thought it would be fun to just do a basic kind of botanical illustration themed sketchbook spread with the monthly flowers, and that's what this is. I wanted to keep it almost antique-y looking. This is done with Pitt pens and Micron pens, and I sketched out each flower, and then I just came in with my markers with muted tones to color them to keep that kind of antique look. I really enjoy how they came out. So January is carnation, February is iris, daffodil for March, daisy for April, lily of the valley for May, June is rose, July is larkspur, August is poppy, September is morning glory, October is cosmos, November is chrysanthemum, and December is holly. And this one is also scanned in, and I got rid of the gutter and I offered that as prints as well. I'm really happy with how it came out. I've been really into looking at different botanical illustrations and trying different styles of botanical illustrations on my own. I think I'm going to lean into that a little bit more in future sketchbooks as well. And this one, again, is inspired by our overgrown lawn. I love me some dandelions, and so I thought it would be fun to do an all-over spread, kind of inspired by my hosta spread, where I just do dandelions and grass. This, again, was gouache and acrylic markers. I really love this paper, honestly, for mixed media, and I don't think I mentioned this before, but this paper is dual-sided, so we have smooth paper for one spread, and then the next spread will be kind of a cold press paper. So it's perfect for when you want to do detailed drawings on the smooth paper, and then paintings on the next spread on the more rough paper. And that's one thing that I really love about this sketchbook. It held up really well to mixed media. This is one of my favorites. I love the all-over effect and how sunshiny they are, because that's what dandelions are to me. They're little spots of sunshine out in the yard. And again, I love my bees and my butterflies, and they love dandelions, so I'm not too upset when I see a bunch of dandelions growing in my yard. And this one is also inspired by my apple tree that you've seen in previous illustrations. And again, this was another time that our lawn was overgrown and we got some dandelions. I wanted this to feel like morning light and that fun kind of hazy feeling on a summer morning. And I think I captured that pretty well. This was just done with some gouache, some pens, and acrylic markers. Again, I love the way the acrylic markers look with the gouache. I think I'm going to use that combination a lot in my next sketchbook as well, because I'm clearly a mixed media baby. I've used watercolor in this, gouache, acrylic gouache, oil-based markers, acrylic markers, water-based markers, alcohol markers, like the whole gambit in this sketchbook. And so I really enjoy that aspect of this sketchbook. But I had a lot of fun with this. I didn't want to get too crazy and realistic. It was more about the feeling for me and the muted colors, and I think I accomplished that. And of course, the tree. It's always about the tree. All right, and this is my last page. I wanted to do this to mostly match the cover page, but I didn't want it to be as detailed. I wanted the cover page to have a lot more of the detail. So I think that this composition worked out really well. I used the same kind of writing and the same rainbowy effect, and I love how it came out. Again, this was with watercolors and markers. So that is this sketchbook. I am super excited to move on to my next sketchbook. Let me know in the comments below. What is your favorite mixed media kind of sketchbook? This is technically a watercolor sketchbook, but it worked really great for mixed media. I think watercolor paper does. So let me know your favorite watercolor sketchbooks or mixed media sketchbooks that can handle a lot of different media. And then also let me know what your favorite piece was from this book. All right, folks, that's it. That was my sketchbook. I can't believe it's done. I can't wait to start my next one. I'm going to work smaller next time, though, honestly. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite piece was in this sketchbook. I will also link the pieces that are available as prints and products in the description below if you're interested. I will see you next time. You have a fantastic day. Bye.